Hi, this is Dr. Nicki, and I want to talk to you about getting started with fluency. Getting started and getting serious about fluency. And I want us to look at like the whole picture. So if you think of your class, one of the pieces, right, around this fluency venture is that you have to define it, first of all. What is it? Because then you need to make sure that that's woven into all of the elements. So what is it? Fluency is being accurate, efficient, and flexible, and being able to select the appropriate strategy for what you're doing. That's fluency. So when you say, oh, this is what our fluency program looks like, it should align up with those things, right? Automaticity is a result of being fluent. You have to have a lot of practice over time that's intentional and meaningful and purposeful and engaging and standards-based and rigorous and accountable. Right? So let's talk about how you start that. Start with daily routines, because those are easy. And routines and energizers are quick things that you do with kids to help them become mathematically proficient. And you usually do them around your priority standards. You can do them around a lot of things, but the ones that you do over and over and over again across time are to build those proficiencies that they need. So fluency is certainly one of the things that you're working on all year long. Remember, when you talk about fluency, it's not a unit. It can't be, because that's not how we learn math. It is something you do over time. By the end of the grade, we expect children to be fluent in adding to 5 to 10 to 20 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 1,000,000, etc. So this is a journey that you set out in your class over the year. And you start out doing some things and you add as you go, right? You start out reviewing the things from the year before and you add as you go into your grade level. So you should start with routines. Routines they take 5 to 7 minutes. It could be something like number of the day, equation of the day, things like that, along with energizers and routines. So there's routines, they last 5 to 7 minutes. There's energizers. Energizers are really quick. They last like 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm gonna show you a couple of energizers. I was walking down the street. That's an energizer I love to do with kids. I was walking down the street and I heard tomase tu. What could the question have been? And the kids have to give you an expression. Was it 1 plus 1? Was it 2 minus 0? Was it 16 divided by 8? Was it 2 times 1? Depending on what grade, they're going to give you different things. So that's a quick energizer I like to do with kids. And I'll say things like, I was walking down the street and I heard Kelly say 9 and she used 3 numbers. Or I was walking down the street and I heard Miguel say 10 and he only used 2 operations. Or I was walking down the street and I heard David say 16 and he didn't use addition or subtraction. I was walking down the street and I heard Baba Jean say 61 and she used 2 operations. So kids, they love it and they start to think really, really creatively. And there's no one right way to do it. So I love that. I love that routine, and it's a fluency routine. And everybody can enter, right? Low floor, high ceiling. Everybody can find their way in some way and come in some door. So I love that routine. Another routine is give me 2 numbers. So you say to the kids, give me 2 numbers that have a difference of 10. Give me 2 numbers that have a difference of 15. Give me 2 numbers that have a sum almost of 100. And Marion Small says to use those flexible terms, because when you say almost, you slow them down. Almost, not quite, not 50 plus 50, almost. So then they start playing with numbers, and that's what you want them doing. Give me 2 numbers that when you multiply them, they almost make 1,000, right? So I love those. Those are 2 quick routines that you can do. And of course, there's, what doesn't belong, where you give the kids 4 equations and maybe they can belong and not belong for different reasons. So you might give them 3 equations that make 10 and 1 that doesn't. Or you give them a bunch of facts. Some of them are double, some of them are not. There's a whole what doesn't belong website that's tons of stuff. And if you Google what doesn't belong, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, decimals, you'll get tons of ideas. But those are energizers and routines that build fluency. So you're going to build it in your energizers and routines. You're going to build it in your guided math groups. In your guided math groups, you're going to play games, card games, board games, dice games. I'm going to give you some examples. Regular board games. Dividing by 10. That's a board game, right? And it's very straightforward. It's like a slides and ladders board game. So there's those that you play. And when kids are playing it, you want them using the language. My quotient is, right? I could ask kids, what's the dividend in that problem? What's the divisor? What's our divisor in this board game? Right, so you're using that academic language. Here's another board game. I like games like this, and so we made a lot of these where kids are zipping around the board, but they're adding and subtracting. And so this one is like doing it with the number 1. So they land here and they go, 1 plus 0. And I have the kids tell me what it is and why. 1 plus 0 is 1. Why? Because anytime you add 0, the number doesn't change. And say they land here, 1 plus 7. What is that? Well, anytime you're adding 1, it's just the next number. So I'm going to give them a number line, and I want them keeping track. So it says 1 plus, so 7, so 8, it's going to be 8, right? They can keep track if they need to. They can use this scaffold if they need to. Remember, you phase out scaffolds when appropriate. 9 plus 1. It's the next number. It's 10. I want them to know it's the next number. You don't have to do a bunch of calculations. It's the next number, right? 1 take away 1. What's happening there? You're taking it all away. So you're going to have 0 left. So there's board games like this, but the point is that kids are like talking their way through it, especially when you're in that guided math group. And when you're not and they're in the workstation, they should be explaining the strategy to their neighbor. And of course there's bingo. Like this is a bingo. This is add 10 facts. So we're adding 10. 1 plus 10, 10 plus 9, right? It's just bingo. And it's this idea that when you add 10 to a single digit number, you're going to get a teen number, right? But you could scaffold it for kids. And again, you want to think, okay, I got this. If I land on 7 plus 10, I go to 17. If I'm at 5, I add 10, I go to 15. So they could use this as a scaffold when they're playing bingo. Eventually, you want them doing it just mentally. Notice how I have the scaffolds here to help. Here's another kind of game I could play in a guided math group. This is multiplication. But I want you to notice that we've set up the game so they're like, this game is practicing 3s, 6s, and 9s because I want kids to do some relational thinking. And I want them to know if you get stuck, there's a reminder down here. When multiplying by 3, you double and add 1 more. And when multiplying by 6s, you just double your 3s. And when multiplying by 9s, one strategy is to triple your 3s. So I want kids to then practice that. And so as they're playing, I'm going to ask them, what's 3 times 3? And how do you know? And what's a strategy? Say someone was stuck. What's a strategy? What's 6 times 9? How do you know? And what's a strategy? If you're stuck on 6 times 9, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? You're out on a boat in the river and you're stuck. What are you going to do? You don't know 6 times 9. It just evades you. What are you going to do? I can go to my 3s and I know 3 times 9. So if I know 3 times 9, then I know 6 times 9 because I know I can double it. So the game board is set up in a way to help scaffold the practice of using strategies. Here's another one. It's multiplying by 5 and 10. Why? Because they're related. And I want kids to get off their fingers on their 5s. I want kids to go to 3 times 5 and think, well, I know 3 times 10 is 30, so 3 times 5 is 15. I want them to be thinking that way. So I'm going to set up opportunities for them to actually practice that, to use those strategies, right? And so it's very purposeful game boards. They're not just like go around the board and answer, but no, make relationships and talk about the relationships that you're making. And then there are game boards like this that are based on whatever we want the kids to practice. So this is subtracting within 5. So on this game board, it's subtracting within 5. And I can give the kids cubes to help scaffold. I could give them a number line, whatever they need. So when they land on the problem, 4 minus 0, they get 4. And I say, now you're not taking away anything. How many do you have left? So we could actually play this board game with tools in hand. And they don't have to use this tool. They can use any tool they want. You can put a couple tools out. Some kids might grab the Wreck and Wreck. Some kids might grab the 5 cubes. Some kids might grab the number line or the number path or whatever you have out there. They should be able to select the tools that they want to use. But that's a little bit about practicing fluency games in the guided math group. Those are board games. Now we're going to look at some card games. So on the site, you're going to find lots of card games, but they're not your grandma's card games. I mean, they are, some really good card games. So like 5 plus 0, the missing add and stuff, which takes kids out. But what you want them to do is you say, you have 5 and you added something. We have no idea what you added, but you added something and now you have 10. How many did you add? Pull out your handy dandy 10 frame. And on this one, we have lots of 10 frames. I'd fold it, say, okay, we're only focusing on this. We've got 5, and you have the kids set it up. It's okay to have a lot of representations, right? You have 5. So they're building it. How many more to get 10? Oh, 5 more, all right? And then, for teacher sanity, the answer's on the back. You teach the kids not to cheat. They'll look at the back. They won't. And then you could have them record it on a recording sheet. They don't have to record everything, but they should certainly record some. And you always want to get at the language again. 5 plus something equals 10. We had 5, and then something happened, and now we have 10. What is that something? It's a mystery. Right, and so we can use our tools to help solve that. So there's a bunch of card games like that because this is actually a standard, right, that kids can solve for the missing number. It starts in 1st grade, and then when you get to 3rd, you're supposed to be doing missing number for multiplication and division. There's also true or false, right, saying whether statements are true. 0 is greater than 2, true or false. So you give the kids a mat, it says true, it says false. They take the cards and they sort them. And then they flip them to see if they're correct. Teachers need answers on the back. Otherwise, you don't know if they're doing it right or not. And they don't know if they're doing it right or not. When you're doing it and so that's when they're in the workstation. But when you're doing it in the guided math group, they pick the card, 0 is greater than 2, and you want them to say that, not 0 eats the alligator, right? Throw the alligator back in the swamp. Use the math language and the symbols. 0 is greater than 2. Is that true or false? Does that make sense? Can you prove that? We have 0 and we have 2. Is this more than this? Right, so you want kids talking it and proving it. So if they were doing this in a guided math group, I'd say, tell me what it says. Read it. Use the language. And does it make sense? Is it true? Can you convince me that it is true or that it is false? So there's a lot of language that goes around it. It's not just about getting the answer, but it's really building understanding, the conceptual understanding, right, and the procedural fluency. So another kind of card game that you'll find is the visuals of the facts. So kids can do a lot of stuff in the groups. They can play war. Whoever has the largest product, in this case, wins. They can play match, matching the commutative facts. They can just play flashcards where you pick it and you have to say what the answer is. So there's lots of different things that you can do with these cards, depending on how you print them. You can print them back to back, so it's commutative. You can print them single, so they're playing match and concentration games and war games and so forth. You could even cut the representation and have the kids match the fact and the representation. Then there are these games. I love these cards. I love these cards. From the second I saw them, I loved them. So it's a puzzle. 10, 8, 5, 4. And kids have to think, how do I put these together so they are equivalent? And it's these are multiplication. We have them for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So I'm thinking, what relationships do these have? And then you flip them and see 8 times 5 is 40 and 10 times 4 is 40. So it's puzzle cards. Reasoning, right? There's another kind of card game that we have that's really fun. It's a match game. So it has, they have to match like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different ways of playing with an equation. So this is equal groups, array, commutative property. There's like an addition sentence and an expression and an answer that goes along with all of this. So, they're great. And you can play them at different levels. Like you might only have some kids matching the commutative property, the array, and the equal groups, and the original problem. You might play it as a war, right? But different representations. You might play it as a match, at different levels. So there's games like this, and they're great. This is like one of my all-time favorites. This is a card game. They have your partners and Post-its, and they cover up one of the numbers, and it's 1 plus something equals 3. It's a great missing number, and then the kids have to say what it is. But the partner could cover up the first add-in, or the second add-in, or the sum, or the expression. And so then, it's just great. So now we have missing operation. And they just take turns. I show it to my partner. They have to tell me what's missing. If they get it correct, they get to keep the card. And then I go, if I get it correct, I get to keep the card. And then at the end, when we're done with all the cards, we're done. We play again. If you want to make it competitive, whoever gets the most cards that round wins a point. Whoever wins 3 rounds wins the game. But every game doesn't have to be competitive. You can do and should do a lot of collaborative work. So those are some card games. Dice games. I love dice. You should have dice. You should have lots of dice. I have like over 200 kinds of dice just because I love dice. I have 10-sided dice and 20-sided dice and 100-sided dice and 60-sided dice. I got dice. I got dice with 1 star and 2 stars and 3 stars. I got supertizing dice. So just Google whatever kind of dice you want. You should have a variety of dice, and you roll the dice and you say, okay, we're just gonna play war. I got 3 plus 5. My partner rolls. They got 3 plus 0. Who's got the largest sum? Right? Could be subtraction. I roll and I subtract the smaller number from the larger number. My partner does. Whoever has the largest difference, or whoever has the smallest difference, wins that point. Right? So, but it could be where you just roll and you're just using top number, and you have to make up a problem that has that as the answer. It could be addition or subtraction, or multiplication or division. Anyway, there's lots of dice games, play dice. You'll see some blank dice templates, some dice templates that have numbers that are like puzzles where kids have to fill in other numbers. You'll find like Dice-orama. So those are some things that you can do in the guided math group. And you're always focusing on language, on what is the learning target, on what is the success criteria, on the accountability piece, and getting kids to talk about the math that they're doing in your guided math group. And then kids are going to work in workstations. And in workstations, you need accountability. So it could be where they pull a fact, they build it on their rec and rec, and then they record it. Build it, record it, and make the connection to the symbolic representation. Concrete, pictorial, abstract. You're doing a lot of that work, not only in your guided math group, but in your workstation. Remember, the key to workstations is you got to get the kids doing the math, and they have to be accountable for the math that they're doing. Here's another example. Here's a card game that we have. We have a bunch of these. This is just doubles. 6 plus 6. They build it. After they build it, they then record what they built, right? So I pulled 6 plus 6. I need to build that. 6, 3, 3, plus 6. I want their hands on. I want them building it. And I might have them build it in my 10 frame. 6 plus 6. I want them to build it. And I want them to look at it. 6 plus 6. And there's lots of different ways I want you to notice this. Visually. 6 plus 6, I can see it's 10 and 2. But if I build it like this, I can see 5 and 5 and the ones. Right, so, you can have them build it in different ways, play around with what do you see when you look at it in different ways. I could flip this, look at it vertically. I see 10 and 2, right? So they pull and they build, and then they record. Again, in that workstation, that accountability piece, what were you doing? How were you doing it? What does it look like? And are you using the language? Right, so you're going to scaffold the language. Here is a game where they have to match representations. What is it symbolically? What is it pictorially? And what is it on the number line? Which is like abstract as well. So we've got the concrete, they're building. The pictorial, they're recording it, or they're looking at a flashcard that has it on it. And then the abstract, where they're looking at the representation, the symbolic representation, or an abstract model representation, the number line. And then this is a game where they have to match. Again, with these cards, they could match, they could play war, they could, do play concentration, do different things. They could play at different levels. Maybe they're only matching the representation and the number line. Maybe they're matching all three. Again, what I want you to notice is this cycle of concrete, pictorial, abstract, right? And that there is evidence, there is a recording sheet. When I'm conferring with them, I can take this out of their Fluency folder and talk about what they were doing. I can have them tell me about one of the problems they did. I can ask them questions about the language. What was your sum? And see if they actually recognize that and see if they're using the language back. I can tell them, I want you to use your math words as you explain this to me. So in the workstations, it's really important that you're having kids go through that cycle and seeing the connectedness of the concrete, the pictorial, and the abstract, and that they are recording what they are doing for the accountability factor, and that they are using the language, right? And that the learning goal is there, as well as the success criteria. So all of this is working together. We've got Fluency routines, we've got Energizers, we've got guided math lessons, we've got workstations, and then that other piece is how does this all work with the home? So I might send a Fluency bag. I might say your child's working on doubles. Here are some doubles flashcards. Here is a doubles board game. I want you to work with your child on doubles this week, right? Or I might send home homemade Rec and Recs and say, here are some Rec and Rec flashcards. Here's a homemade Rec and Rec, right? And then I might make a video so parents can QR it and see me or see the kids using the Rec and Rec so they know how to do it at home. I want to show you, I might send home some Play-Doh and have the kids playing Smash It. I want to say something about Smash It. I just put them in sheet protectors, right? I have tons of boards. You can, pull them down off the website. But one of the things I want to say is there's like open, right, where kids will pull a card. So they'll say, Smash It, 10 minus 10. And then what they have to do is they have to build it, right? So we're going to roll and build. When I'm playing, I play Smash It a lot. I love it. When I'm playing Smash It in kindergarten, I pre-roll the balls. It just makes it easier when we're doing it in the guided math group, because little people, their little fingers, it takes them forever to roll those balls. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna re-roll. I'll roll like 100 balls, and then we can just like focus on the math. But in the workstation, I let them roll it. So I have set up the problem. The problem is 10 minus 10, right? So I have 10, I'm going to take away 10, and I'm going to smash it. Bam, 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 bam. So I took away all of them. How many do I have left? I have 0 left. Now, one of the ways you can do smash it is that I could do a bunch of problems that are just focused on taking away 10, taking away from 10. That's one way to set the station up so that kids are practicing something very intentional. Like you could do smash it, but all of the smash it's are take away 1. Or you could do smash it, but all of the smash it are half facts. So you're building, right, that strategic competence and understanding around what that fact is. Other times you just mix up all the cards and they're just practicing takeaways. They're just practicing subtraction in general. But I want you to think about that because it's different. Like you could have generalized practice of subtraction facts, like for kids that have mastered it. And, they're just like doing review to make sure it's deep in the long-term memory, right? So, or you can say, I really want you to work on your half facts. So you're going to play smash it, but the focus is what happens when you take half away. Or I really want you to work on taking away just 1. So we're going to do all these smash it games, but it's just going to be taking away 1. Right. So I think that's important to know and think and do about smash it. You would I might send home smash it, take away 10 with a little jar of Play-Doh and a smash it mat and some instructions or a little video clip of how to play smash it. And then that would be the homework for the week, that your child is learning to subtract from 10. One of the strategies is to think 10 friends. Here is a flashcard. Here are flashcards. Take from 10 flashcards. And here's a board game. Well, this isn't a board game. This is an activity, a smash it activity. And the homework is every night this week, please have your child play the game and use the vocabulary and explain what they're doing. And then next week we'll talk about what they did and see if we need to do some more of that, or if we're going to go on to a different game. So we have this fluency picture that's coming together. We're doing routines. We are doing some guided math, small group work. We are having kids do independent practice with partners and by themselves and in teams and in groups. We are reinforcing it at home with homework. Kids are going to learn space practice over time. Mini encounters that are engaging, academically rigorous, standards-based. Fun. It should be fun. I don't know why I'm whispering. It should be fun, right? Remember, Seymour Papert said, have hard fun. Kids need to have hard fun. And so I'll leave you with that. Go and build your fluency program and have your framework be hard fun.